I don't know if you saw this, but a few weeks ago, International Headquarters released a video of the General and Commissioner Bronwyn in conversation with a number of young people who are involved in our International Youth Forum. If you haven't seen it, it's a fascinating video. If you've got a spare 20 minutes, it's no longer than that, then I suggest you go away today and find it. You'll find it on YouTube, you'll find it on social media, and watch it. There is so much wisdom packed into this 20 minutes, not just from our international leaders, but from the young people that they are conversing with. But there was one particular thing that the General said which really stood out to me as I watched the video. Now, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but it wasn't particularly profound. So I don't know why it stood out to me. But there was something in the way that the General expressed it. There was something in the context in which he was saying it that really stood out to me in that moment. It just jumped out at me as I listened to him. So have a look and see what you think.
Leadership pathways.
Yes. I've been wondering, how do you really stay grounded in God while you're leading such a big organization, and still in everything that you do, people would not see you, but they would see Christ.
Yeah. I was just saying to somebody yesterday that the truth is that the responsibilities I currently carry have pushed me into the throne room. Do you know what I mean by that? Like they've pushed me into the presence of God because I've realized just how much I need His provision, His strength, His wisdom, His counsel, His enablement, and His protection, because I think when you are trying to give yourself fully to the King and to the mission of the movement, you become a bit of a target for the evil one. He's very subtle. He's a very tricky guy, right? I'm benefiting now in this role from years of disciplined growth in discipleship. I'm sort of reaping the reward of investing early in what it means to be a deep follower of Jesus Christ. And I think that's what's keeping me grounded. So I think just practicing the disciplines of the faith is such an important thing to grab a hold of when we're young.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Right? For you guys, right? Not easy. Correct?
Yeah.
The discipline thing, right? Even the word discipline, like, it's a horrible word. Whatever words you want to use, the truth is the fruit of the faith comes from the discipline of the faith, from doing the things, prayer, word, fellowship, service. It's the practice of the faith that helps us go deeper in Jesus and brings with it the fruit and the protection. So for me, in answering your question, how do I do it? I do it through continuing to practice the disciplines of my faith and remembering daily that what I am before I am anything else is a committed follower of Jesus. That's what I take.
Yeah. And I also love what, in one of the...
Isn't that profound? I mean, we all know it, don't we? It's like, I've heard that thousands of times before. But there was just something in the way the General expressed it. It was so helpful. The fruit of our faith comes from practicing the disciplines of our faith. The fruit of our faith comes from practicing the disciplines of our faith. And what really stood out to me, I think, is that the General says he's been so consistent over so many years in practicing those disciplines that he's able to stay grounded even with the enormous responsibilities that he holds. And that spoke to me as a leader. Am I being consistent in the practice of my faith? Am I practicing the spiritual disciplines? I notice when I'm not doing that as well, and I think other people do too. And so I want you to ask yourself that question this morning. What spiritual disciplines are grounding me in my faith so that I can be as effective for God as possible? What spiritual disciplines am I practicing? What fruit do I see because I'm practicing those spiritual disciplines on a daily basis? I have a book on my bookshelf. It's a good place to keep a book, in case you're wondering. Oh dear. Some of you are a bit asleep this morning. There's a book on my bookshelf called The Spiritual Disciplines Handbook. It's written by a lady called Adele Olberg Calhoun. And Adele puts together over 60 spiritual disciplines. Did you know that there were over 60 spiritual disciplines? No? Well, it might be a book worth reading to discover a few more, because sometimes we push ourselves into doing the disciplines that we think we should be doing, and they don't fit us, okay? If you're the sort of person who speaks for England, and I'm not looking at anyone in particular, you know whether you talk for England or not, then trying to practice the spiritual discipline of silence and solitude will be really difficult for you. Now, it might be that God might say, because you can talk for England, you need to practice the spiritual discipline of silence and solitude, in which case you definitely need to have a go at it. But if you find it too uncomfortable and it's just not me, then there are another 59 or so spiritual disciplines you can choose from instead. And these spiritual disciplines range from the ones that we can probably think of off the top of our heads. We've been thinking about prayer this morning. The General mentioned a few others: spending time in the Word, reading our Bibles, studying our Bibles. I've mentioned silence and solitude and so on. But there are lots of other spiritual disciplines that you're not aware of that are spiritual disciplines if we do them in the right place. So it's another book worth reading, The Spiritual Disciplines Handbook by Adele Olberg Calhoun. What spiritual disciplines are grounding your faith? What spiritual disciplines help you to practice your faith each day? As we've been going through this series of Summer Slowdown, we've thought of a few. A few weeks ago, we thought about getting out into nature and connecting with God in that way. We've just spent a week by the North Norfolk coast. I only have to go down to the sea and stand by the edge of the sea, and I can connect with God in a way that I can't in other places. Spending time in nature and connecting with God. A couple of weeks ago, we thought about the spiritual discipline of gratitude, actually practicing gratitude and choosing to do that every day, finding things to thank God for amidst all the negativity that there is in the world. And I know at least one person, maybe a few of you as well, who started a gratitude journal on the back of that teaching, just writing down 3 things a day that you're grateful for. They don't have to be spiritual. If you've had some nice ice cream, you can thank God for nice ice cream, whatever. But today we're going to be thinking about the discipline of prayer. And to help us, we're going to turn to Psalm 46. So if you've got your Bible with you and you want to turn to it, Psalm 46, and we're reading the 11 verses, and dotted around us some message notes to help you as we think about these words from Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear when earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam. Let the mountains tremble as the waters surge. A river brings joy to the city of our God, the sacred home of the Most High. God dwells in that city. It cannot be destroyed. From the very break of day, God will protect it. The nations are in chaos and their kingdoms crumble. God's voice thunders and the earth melts. The Lord of heaven's armies is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress. Come, see the glorious works of the Lord. See how he brings destruction upon the world. He causes wars to end throughout the earth. He breaks the bow and snaps the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation. I will be honored throughout the world. The Lord of heaven's armies is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress. Amen. Amen. Now, I imagine that many of you will know this psalm. but you might not know the context in which the psalm was written. And that's not a great surprise, because the scholars can't agree the context in which it was written either. There seem to be two main thoughts about when and where this psalm was written. It might well have been written after Jerusalem's rescue from the Moabite coalition in the days of Jehoshaphat. You can read about that, if you want to, when you get home, in 2 Chronicles chapter 20. Or it might have been written during Jerusalem's escape, or after Jerusalem's escape from the Assyrian siege in 701 BC. You can read about that in 2 Chronicles chapter 32. But whatever the context that this psalm was written in, there is absolutely no doubt that for the first 9 verses, so for, I guess, I can't do the maths, but 3/4 or so of it, the psalm focuses on the destructive outbreak of cosmic powers which are beyond our human understanding. Now, I don't know if you remember, but a few weeks ago, there was an earthquake, I think either off the coast of Alaska or off the eastern coast of Russia, but up there somewhere. And a number of places around that area were then put on tsunami alert, including the island of Hawaii. And I just remember hearing, almost in the background really, the news report. And as often happens when there's a tsunami alert, the authorities in Hawaii were evacuating people from the coastal regions. And where were they telling them to go? Up into the hills, up into the mountains in the middle of the island. Why? Because they believed, because this is as far as our human understanding goes, that there would never be a tsunami big enough to go over the mountains in the middle of Hawaii. It just goes beyond our understanding that that could ever happen. And yet, that's exactly what the psalmist describes in Psalm 46. He describes cosmic forces which are outside of any human control. He talks of the melting of the earth in volcanic eruption, the tottering of the mountains in an earthquake, and the tumbling of great eroded masses of rock into the angry, roaring sea. And we just cannot imagine it. It's beyond our understanding. And as he pulls all of these illustrations together, and as he draws this picture for us in the first nine verses, he then comes to the one command in the whole of the 11 verses of Psalm 46. Amid all this chaos, amidst all this destruction, amidst everything that's beyond our human understanding, there is just one command in Psalm 46, and we find it in verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Now we have to realize that this isn't some cozy invitation by God to come and sit by him and find some calm away from all the chaos. This isn't an invitation by God to look at the cosmic forces around us, imagine and know that they're beyond our imagination, and know that they're beyond our control, and to sit cross-legged on the floor and do some meditation. That's not what this verse says. The words that make up this command, be still, in Hebrew, have more of a meaning of shut up. Be quiet. Stop what you're doing. Cease and desist from whatever it is that you're doing in this moment. In a military context, it might well have been, attention! It's to get your attention. Be still and know that I am God. It's supposed to get our focus. God is saying to us, stop. Stop what you're doing. Be quiet. And listen to me. I am God. Even amidst all the destruction, even amidst all the chaos, I am God. I have always been God. I am God now, and I always will be God. And one day, every nation is going to know that. I am in control and you are not. It might just be that as we come to the end of our summer weeks together, we recognize our need to be still, to stop what we're doing, to stop even what we're thinking, and hear God say, I am God, and you are not. Amidst our busyness, amidst the chaos sometimes that seems to carry on around to us, God may well be saying to us, hands off. Stop being so hands-on in your life. Stop trying to manage your own life and allow me to be God of your life. Sometimes, in fact, I've written sometimes, but maybe I should say every time, all the time, we need to allow God to work in our lives in his own time and in his own way, not the time that we think he should work and not in the way that we think he should work. We have to be willing to take our hands off and allow God to lead. God may well be saying to us this morning, don't meddle. Don't meddle. I've got this. Be still, stop, cease, desist, and know that I am God. So the question I have to ask you this morning is this. Are you too busy to allow God to be God? Are you too busy to allow God to be God? In the week that I wrote this message, which was before I went on holiday, and as I thought through this message, I happened to contact at least 2 people and ask them if there was anything that I could pray for in that coming week. And both of them came back to me and said in different ways, my body and my soul is ready for the holiday that I know is coming. In other words, I'm working, but I'm working on fumes. My spiritual life is running on fumes. I'm in danger of burning out, but I'm holding on because I know there's a holiday just round the corner. And in a few weeks, my life's going to be filled with sunshine. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to have a change of pace. And that's a really welcome sight. And I just need to get there. I wonder if you feel like that today. Or I wonder if you've ever felt like that. If there have been times in your life when you felt like that. I'm just at the end of my rope. I'm just at the end of my tether. But I can see a holiday or some kind of break coming just around the corner. The reminder from Psalm 46 is that if we are still, if we stop, if we cease and desist from what we insist on doing, if we allow God to be God, then maybe we won't get to that place where we're just hanging on for a break. The reminder from the general is that if we practice spiritual disciplines like prayer that we're focusing on this morning, then we may not get to that place because our faith life will be built on a solid foundation. Prayer allows us to remember that there is a sovereign God who cares for us. A sovereign God who is our refuge. A sovereign God who wants to hear from us and connect with us in relationship. A sovereign God who's always present in our lives, even when we're so busy that we forget he's there. Prayer, the spiritual discipline of prayer, helps us to ensure that we don't try to avoid God in what we're doing or try to shut him out of what is going on in our lives. Prayer reminds us that he knows us, that he loves us, and he remains ready always with open arms to welcome us when we're ready to connect with him. There's a woman called Amy Julia Becker, and she writes about confusing religion and spirituality and how sometimes our busyness and our restlessness can keep us from the practice of being still and knowing God. And she uses this lovely illustration, which I haven't been able to get out of my head since I found it. It's the story of a young son who was exhausted from not sleeping after they moved him out of his cot into a big boy bed. And she writes this: he was exhausted, but he refused to stay in his bed. And in the end, I said to him, "William, what do you need in order to be able to get to sleep?" He turned his head to look at me and said, "Mum, I need a fence. I need a fence." We put him back in his cot, and he returned to his previous pattern of sleeping 11 hours at night. In order to be still, he needed boundaries. When I think about the interplay, she says, between spirituality and religion, I imagine that religion is the fence, the boundaries that give us the freedom to explore true spirituality. Or in the words of the psalm, knowing God is the fence, the protective barrier that allows us to be still. Our son William needed a fence, the bars of his cot, in order to sleep. And those cot bars were good for him. The fence of spiritual disciplines, the cot bars, if you like, of spiritual disciplines are good for us. They help us to put boundaries around our lives. They're the foundations of our faith, and they help us to be still and to recall that God is God and that we are not. So again, I have to ask you, what spiritual disciplines are you putting into your fence in order to make your spiritual life secure? Just think about your prayer life for a moment. Is your prayer life perhaps made up of arrow prayers, those ones where you simply throw up a quick plea to God in the middle of whatever you're doing, asking for help? Or do you manage to find times of focused prayer? Now, don't get me wrong. God hears every prayer, even those arrow prayers, and he doesn't judge you based on how long you pray or how many times in the day you pray or whether your prayers are made up of lists or requests or whether there's times of gratitude in there. He just loves hearing from you, whatever you have to say to him. But there is so much benefit to you and to me in taking time for stillness, in taking time for confession and reflection. The benefit isn't God's. He just loves hearing from you. The benefit is all ours. When you take the time to sit with God, it gives you a moment to wade through in your mind everything that's going on, all the urgent things, and realize that your heart is in a tender place and it needs God's love and care. It needs to be reminded that he is God. Times of reflection give you a moment to sort on everything going on in your head, to unburden your heart with whatever's on your mind, to listen for what God says to you in reply, and then be ready to make that change when it comes. It's so easy in the busyness of life and ministry to just press on in survival mode, just waiting to get to that next break, waiting to get to that next holiday or whatever that you're looking forward to. And just power through, hoping that something will save you around the corner instead of dealing with the mess inside. Stillness, the spiritual discipline of stillness, of stopping and praying, allows us to bring all of that mess to the Lord instead. And to consider how he can empower us through that mess, to remind ourselves that he is our refuge, a safe place, that he is our defender and our protector, and that nothing is too big for him. And that most of all, he is our God. He can handle whatever we throw at him. God is steadfast. God is always with us, but it's prayer that helps us to make time and to make room for God's voice and for his presence to become clearer to us. Are we too busy to pray? Are we? Are we too busy to pray? Then maybe before the end of this summer, we need to make a change so that we're ready for whatever God has planned for us in the next busy season in our lives. And as the psalmist reminds us, if we just find time to be still, then we will find God in life's whirlwind. The songsters are going to come and remind us of another psalm. He that dwells in the presence of God will find strength in the presence of the Almighty. Psalm 91. Thank you, songsters.
Thank you so much for watching Battle Ready Sermons. If this message encouraged you, please like, subscribe and share it with others who need hope and strength today. And be sure to check out battlereadysermons.com for more sermons and faith resources. Until next time, stay strong and stay battle ready.